So, welcome everybody to the first Software Developer Thursday of the 2023. Happy New Year to everyone. Today, Simon Dalvai of Noi will present us his experience with the migration from Google Analytics to Matomo. I won't steal him much more time. Thank you, Simon, for being here, and the stage is yours.
Thank you, Stefano. So, as Stefano told you, I will show you today how we migrated from Google Analytics to Matomo and what are the main differences. So first, I will start with the problem, like why we reached the state that we can't use Google Analytics anymore and have to use Matomo. And everybody started from this guy, Maximilian Schrems. So basically, this is the evolution of the privacy laws between the United States and the European Union. And in 2000, they developed a simple privacy, this international safe harbor privacy principles that defined how the data of a user has to be stored safely, can be used, that he has to be notified how the data is used, and some other principles. And then 2001, the Patriot Act was regulated by the US government, and that act allows the US government to see the data of the users. Like they don't need special environments or something like that to see the data. And so 2015, or I think the actual law course started much earlier, but in 2015 the Schrems one decision was made by the European, I don't know how it's called now.
Commission.
Yeah, exactly, thank you. And so they invalidated the international safe harbor privacy principles, and now there had to be a new law that defines the privacy laws between US and the European Union. And so 2016, the EU-US Privacy Shield was defined, and 2 years later, the Cloud Act that was now the same, that because the US government had a problem, like the FBI, they wanted to see some emails from some investigations on European servers of Microsoft, and it was not allowed to access data outside US soil. And so with this Cloud Act, they made it so that American companies have to give access to the US government, even if their data centers are outside the United States. And then 2018, the same year, the GDPR was enforced. And so Maximilian Schrems and his company and colleagues did again a lawsuit, and they won. And so the Schrems 2 taking act that invalidated this EU privacy shield because of this Cloud Act. That so if you're using US services, even if the data is stored in Europe, the US government still can access the data of the user, and so it isn't compliant with the GDPR. So it's said quite easily. For sure, there is some more complicated background, but this is the principle. And so, on top of that, around 2022, like on February, Austria started, because Maximilian Schrems is Austrian, so the Austrian government was the first one that declared Google Analytics illegal in Austria. And then the next countries were Italy and France in June, and Denmark on September. And I think these are the only 4 countries at the moment, but I think much more will follow. And yeah. And then this also happened on the 29th of June. I don't know if some more of you got this nice email from Federico Leva, that he wrote a kind of script, I think, they checked all the sites he visited and saw if they use Google Analytics or something like that. And he wrote a mass mail to every site he visited or something like that. And he asked to remove his data from the Google Analytics instead. And it was, yeah, for us it was the first time that it was really enforced by a user that he wants his data removed and that we don't use Google Analytics. And so we started even more to use Matomo. And I saw also a video later, an interview of him, and he said that he did it more to as a wake-up call to the companies to say, hey, look out, the Italian law enforcement is enforcing this, watch out. Like, he wasn't really suing the guys or like the companies, but it was more a heads up. And so there are even more problems. Like, for example, Google Fonts, because if you're using a third-party service, like Google Fonts or also others like the CAPTCHA, Font Awesome, and generally every service, third-party service that is located in the US, you actually submit as a user your IP address, your browser agent, operating system, the timestamp, everything to the server. And of course, most of them say they don't lock them, they don't have the data, but you never can know. And so actually, I don't know if it's actually illegal, but there are also things going on outside the analytics world, also in the CDN and font stuff. Currently, it's kind of a tricky question. What can I use? What I can't use? So the safest thing is to go for European companies with European data centers, and yeah, currently in Europe is that the best option. So now let's see Matomo. That is the Google Analytics alternative. It is open source, and it says that it protects the customer privacy, and it's also, you can try for free, but then you have to pay, so it actually makes money by subscription, not by exploiting the user data. And it's one of the most used and with the biggest history and community of alternative analytics tools like Google Analytics. There are now hundreds of analytics tools, but I think Matomo is one of the most battle tested and biggest one of the alternatives. And so we choose to use Matomo. And cool stuff is also that you can host it by yourself, you can use the cloud service, like you have different options to use this service. And now let's see the technical details. Like it started 2007, so now it's 15 years old. But it started with the name Pivik. I don't know, maybe some of you used it already as Pivik. And now 2018 they changed it to Matomo. So Pivik is still, the website is still active. I think maybe for old clients they still have it there. I don't know actually if you can use it now. But of course Matomo is now the main brand. And it's based on PHP, and you have a MySQL server in the background. So if you host it yourself, you have also to set up the MySQL server and everything. And the license is GPL version 3 or later, so it is copyleft and it's free and deliver software. And if you use the cloud service, there are several locations also in Frankfurt, in the European Union, so you are sure that the data is in Europe and can be accessed by the US government. And it has the same structure as Google Analytics, so you would take the snippet with the tracking ID and everything, the JavaScript snippet, you include it in the site, and if you want more options, you include also the tag manager, like we used to do it with Google Analytics. And the JavaScript file is about 21 kilobytes big, So it is not too big, but for example, there are alternatives like Plausible, Umami, or Simple Analytics. Like Plausible, I know they have the JavaScript file is like less than 1 kilobyte. It's really small, but of course the functionality of Plausible and Matomo is not comparable. Like Plausible is really simple. You get to see from where your users are, how many you have, but you can't have the full functionality as a Google Analytics or Matomo. It have much more power. And another cool thing, because we have a web component store, and so I tried if it works also with web components, because the problem is you can't integrate the tracking directly inside the web component, so we have to insert it on the website outside. And I will show you later how I did it, more or less, but you can access the IDs of the HTML of the web component without having to put actual code inside the web component. And it works also with apps. We didn't try it, we wanted to, but then we had a lot of other stuff to do, then we didn't actually try it. But I saw online that it works also with apps. I don't know how good, but it should work. And now here, an example on how you can, for example, trigger an event on Matomo. I found two main ways. There are for sure different ways because it's a quite big platform. You can do a lot of stuff in several ways. And so my cause was, for example, I had to track the event registration of the Open Data Hub website. And so there I did it with this JavaScript line. You just add this on the onClick as onClick parameter on the button, and then on Matomo you have to create the corresponding event, and when you click on the button you get the event on the dashboard, but you have to do it inside the code in the HTML file on the button itself. So it is maybe for a coder quite easy, but if you have the communication department or something like that, they don't know, they want to touch that file. So there's also the other way. You always create an event on the Matomo dashboard, and then you can, for example, here you have all these options, and these options have sub-options, like it's huge. And for example, here you can also say the click ID contains example button, so the HTML ID is called example button, or the class or something like that. So you can trigger events without actually inserting code inside the website. And this was really cool, so because I could use it for the web components, and I have to check out once here because there are a lot of different events that you can check, and it's really powerful. So now I will show you how we migrated from Google Analytics to Matomo. This was our roadmap. So we started quite early, we were lucky. So on the 21st of January last year, we decided that we want to migrate from Google Analytics to Matomo. And then we first wanted to see the differences between the software as a service and the cloud option. So we decided to test it on two different sites, the Free Software Lab and the Open Data Hub. And then we did that. We decided which to use, and then we discussed about the lessons learned. And yeah, we didn't actually activate on all websites by July. It took a bit more time, but more or less by August, September, I think we removed Google Analytics from every site and had Matomo running on it. And here is another, like here we compared the different services. and to decide which one to use, and to convince our communication that we don't need to use Google Analytics, because at the time it wasn't enforced by law but just by us, and we had to convince them. Now it is law and you don't need to convince them anymore. But so basically we saw the running costs. Of course, Google Analytics is free, so you don't have to pay nothing. Matomo, as software as a service on the cloud, you pay 19 euros for 50,000 hits a month, 35 for 100 hits a month, and if you go above that, you have to contact them directly and make a special deal with them, a contract, depending on how big your website is. And on Matomo on premise, because we run it only a few weeks with one website, so it was quite hard to make estimation how much it will cost. But we took because on the Matomo website you see a machine that they recommend you for this kind of traffic, and more or less the costs are around 37 euros. So it depends on how much effort you put in to reduce costs, to which server or which thing, but more or less you pay what you will pay on the cloud service. So we decided to go to use the software as a service, because it saves you also time, so you don't just have to set it up and you don't have to maintain the server and everything. And like the other criteria we saw, we measured was, for example, you have a support page view, then if it supports the page view that a user goes on the web page, I mean the basic was what every analytics tool does. Then the demographics and of the visiting users. There, Matomo always gives you the demographics, and Google Analytics only if you activate data sharing. And data sharing is basically where you decide if you give the data of the users to Google or not. If you give it to Google, you can see the data. If not, you don't see it. So it is, it's their business model. So then the other was that it supports setting a goal on the web page, and all three services have that. Also real-time statistics, and then the GDPR compliance. Like when we started doing this, I think only Austria and France, like there were 2 countries, now there are 4 that are against Google Analytics, and you don't have this problem with Matomo. And then here the setup, like of course if you use the cloud service, you just have to create an account and integrate it on your website. But if you have to set it up, it takes more or less 1 day, depends on the skills and everything. I tried a Docker container, I was not still so familiar with Docker, so it took me 1 day more or less, but for sure it can be done faster, or it depends on the experience you have. And of course Google Analytics also doesn't need a setup. And then to activate a new site, it took more or less 20 minutes, because you have to copy the snippet, activate the site and everything. And it's the same process on all 3 services. And the main reason because we choose the cloud services, the maintenance effort, because we have already a lot of stuff to do, and we don't want unexpected errors on the Matomo site, and we have to fix it and update security and everything. So we chose the cloud service, and for now it's working great. And now I will show you some screenshots of Matomo and Google Analytics. So this is Google Analytics. Here you can see how many users are visiting the site, the sessions, like the main view of the site, the languages and everything. Then the operating system, how many users are using Chrome, how many users are using Firefox, and of course there are a lot of other analytics you can see. And then the demographics, like you see from where the people are checking your site. And this is how Matomo looks. Like this is the main view if you open it. Then here you can choose which website. Maybe it wasn't mentioned before, but you also have a limit of 30 websites with the on-cloud service. You can't have more than 30 websites, otherwise you have to create a second account or contact their sales. So for us, we have, 25, so it was fine. But if we reach more, we will have to create a second account or contact the sales. And here you can see the count like before, the demographic map, and here the real-time users, where you can see from where they come, which browser, and everything, the timestamps. And here is a more detailed view, for example, of the locations, the demographics, and yeah, you can do a lot of things, like you can also check the behavior, define funnels, like how the user goes into the page, behaves on the page, and then trigger a goal, like every analytics tool. So it is the equivalent to Google Analytics. And this is a feature that Google Analytics actually doesn't have. So you can see a visitor profile and see the single person on which tabs he clicked, which buttons, which events he triggered. And then depending on your settings, because you can have settings to track the user a lot or just a few or just a little, so depending on the settings you have, you actually see that it's the first visit or that he's a returning user or everything. And so if this user comes back tomorrow, I can click on his profile and say, okay, he was already here yesterday, and you can check also returning users. And it depends a lot because if you use the most privacy protecting settings, these features doesn't work because Matomo can't recognize the user again. But here there are a lot of settings to define how much you want to track the user. And here we can see the real-time statistics. So this is on Google Analytics. You can see how many the visitors are in the last 30 minutes, from where they are, and from where they come, and everything. And this is the kind of equivalent in Matomo. Here you see from where your users are, how many, I think how big the circle is, the where users are. And this is not so good visible, but here you can see, like before, on the dashboard, just bigger, with, for example, this user hit a goal. For example, he clicked on a button we tracked, and you can see also the session time. It is actually you can see more information about a single user than in Google Analytics. And here the final thoughts. So Google Analytics and Matomo have really similar functionalities. They are really equivalent. So if you are used to Google Analytics, you probably want to go to Matomo because it has the same features and power as Google Analytics. For example, Plausible would be much faster, much slimmer, but it doesn't have all these extensive analytics power that these two services give you. And then we also saw that the costs are more or less similar depending on the setup you have, the time you have to set it up. But of course, using it on the cloud is much less effort and easier to maintain. So it depends on how much time you have. And there's also another thing to say that Matomo on-premise has actually less features than Matomo on the cloud, because they have kind of a, I think, I'm not sure, but like an open core model where the Matomo core is open source and you can host it by yourself, but the plugins and some features are just are proprietary by Matomo. So on the cloud you have them already, but if you are on premise on your machine and you want to have them, you have to pay them separately, and I think they cost quite a lot. And for the migration, you can migrate your machine on premise to cloud. So if you were running Matomo on your servers, you want to migrate to cloud, you can do that. And vice versa, you can also export the data and integrate it on your Matomo running on your machine, but you have to contact the support. So it is not just an export button or an import button. You have actually to write the Matomo support and ask them that they give you a database dump, or that you send them your database dump and they integrate it on Matomo. So it is not so easy. We didn't do it actually, but it should be possible. And also the data from Google Analytics can be imported. We also didn't do it because we left the Google Analytics instance there, so we want to see the old data. We can access it and just see it in Google Analytics. And the new data from last year, we see it on Matomo. So we have this separation. We didn't have the need to integrate also the Google Analytics data into Matomo, so that was fine for us. And the good thing about Matomo is that you have 100% data ownership, so the data belongs to you and not to the company. Doesn't do sketchy things with the user data, or like some other services do. And of course it is fully GDPR compliant and all the other privacy compliance laws from other countries. And also the European Commission uses now Matomo, and also the Italian government has set up a Matomo instance for the public administrations. I don't know exactly how good it works because we were already using on the cloud, so yeah, maybe now it works much better than before, but there are some voices that it didn't work perfect in the first start. So maybe now it is better, but yeah. And thank you. This was my presentation. If you have some questions or feedback.
Thank you, Simon, for the nice presentation. So now it's your turn. Questions?
I think my voice is loud enough. Two things. Were you able to? Oh, we're speaking. Okay. Were you able to import historical data from Google Analytics into Matomo? Is it possible? Did you try it? And second, did you do a parallel run and compare the two data? Do they have actually the same numbers?
So we didn't do the import. We have still the Google Analytics service there. So if you want to access the old data, we will just see there. But it is possible. So you can do it. I don't have experience with that, but it should be possible. And we were running it also simultaneously on both websites, on one website, both services. And we saw there is a bit of a difference from the numbers of viewers, like how many views a user makes, because they just have different algorithms. For example, Google says, okay, this was now a visit, he stayed for 30 seconds, switched up, came back, this is now a new visit, and Matomo says, no, this is still the same user. They're like, Matomo shows maybe, I don't know, 20% less users, so you have not exactly the same numbers.
Less visits or less users? Less visits.
Visits. Yeah, I don't know. I think maybe also a little bit users depending on how much you set the privacy settings. Because then Matomo can recognize returning users and otherwise not, and you always have new users.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
There was a feedback. There was a feedback, I think.
I can answer you. There is a tool you can use with a command line to import data from analytics to Matomo, and there is also a web page you can use it. It's not really efficient, but usually it works. And we did some tests to compare analytics and Matomo events. Visits are quite different, like Simon said. Events tracked are on the same. Okay.
Someone else has questions or wants to share?
I have a more than a question. I have a feedback. If I'm able to talk. So, and think. Okay, I think Matomo on the software as a service offerings. So, because you say there is a limitation and only until the profiles you can buy of Matomo software as a service are up to 35 websites.
Yeah.
And I think they extended it actually. I think you have more options now than when we did the verification. I think it's more, you can get up to 1,000 now, have multiple selections.
Okay.
Just a feedback. They got more markets, so more options.
Yeah, two questions. First one is, can you enable Matomo without a cookie banner? Because there's one circular of the Garante della Privacy says it probably cannot, but I'm not so sure. And one thing, obviously, it's an intrinsic problem with Matomo. If you use Google AdWords, then the AdWords campaign is much less powerful if you don't use Google Analytics, because Google doesn't have any guidance anymore if the campaign is successful or not. That's maybe one of the main issues with.
Yeah, about the cookies, I think it was on my slides, I just forgot to say. So you can use Matomo without, I'm not pretty sure if it's legal, but you can use it. Yeah, I mean, you can enable on Matomo in the settings cookie-less tracking, force cookie-less tracking, and there, if the user visits the website, no cookies are saved on the browser. So technically, it is legal because you have, for technical cookies, for example, you also don't have to ask this cookie banner only for analytics or marketing purposes or other not technical cookies. And so, since there are no cookies, you don't have to show the cookie banner. For example, we have enabled that option, but still show the cookie banner. I mean, just to be sure.
But the law says any mechanism able to identify the user. The law says cookies or similar technologies. So
Yeah,
Because
then
obviously if you send it in the request, an identifier is the same thing.
yeah, then probably I'm not pretty sure. I mean, these
He's
are
not a lawyer.
yeah.
Don't ask him law.
Don't try it at home.
Actually, if we, from my side, when you know when someone has did a request or even a booking, at what time is show with the profile, then it's not legal. Because you can know from the system who is this person.
Okay.
So, from my perspective, you cannot have this tracking of profile at that depth of the data.
Okay.
Yeah, you can do it. In my experience, it was our take a few months ago, in the sense that if you self-host and you don't save the weblogs, so you cannot reconstruct which IP address accessed that call, made that call at that time, and you activate the cookieless tracking, then of course you lose completely the returning visitors, because every visit is a new visit, that's a given. And if you there don't save weblogs, then you actually don't have identifying information. Because another option that you have in Matomo is the anonymization of the IP. And I think you can also configure how many octets it should remove. So actually you can make visitors completely anonymous in the database. And if you don't save the weblogs, then really you don't have any, the Matomo installation has no means of making the connection. But it's true, of course, if you track events, and in events you have a booking and say person X made a booking, and then you have a problem. But I think that if you self-host and you don't do, you don't track events that contain user identifying information, you can also don't have a booking.
Okay.
The second question
The
was?
second one is if you're using Google AdWords, Google AdWords is self-optimizing. So you give him some goals, you say, okay, you pay a campaign, you say, okay, ideally people should click the buy button of your buy my shoes. Obviously, if Google cannot track if you're really, people push the button, they cannot optimize, obviously, the campaign for you. So you risk to, if you have quite costly campaigns with much less return than if you use Google Analytics, because those information comes from Analytics and you shortcut AdWords with Analytics.
I can answer to that.
No, because first of all, I don't believe in the automatic optimization of Google in that case. You can do it still with just to track the CPO or just a sale. You can do it still with that, but I still don't believe that it's in the automation there is working so well in Google. So first, you don't need analytics. You just need the tracking code at the end. And second, if you really work a lot or a lot of years, like me with Google with Google Ads or AdWords, or 1 day ago AdWords, you're still working better than the automated function of Google.
Okay.
Because you need a really, really big website. Maybe it will work, but with all what we have in South Row, for example, with this kind of traffic, it doesn't work.
Okay, that's good information.
Yeah.
One question from my side.
Sorry. Do you know agencies that they are already working with Matomo and offering to their clients? Maybe they are also here, and who have already experience with it, like also in the touristic field, or to my client, I say that's like if they don't do web pages, but just also the analytics, for example. You know someone?
I know I know a South Tyrolean company who is doing and is working with Vivek and now Matomo, which is Bayer, you know them.
Yeah, sure.
So they
But they
use
don't
it,
sell
but they don't. I don't know if they
No.
offer. I
No.
think maybe there is someone here who offers it.
Nobody knows.
Or they are very shy. They
Yeah,
are very
no,
shy.
business. Could be a
Yeah.
business opportunity.
Some other question or feedback?
I think,
Te lo posso dire tra una settimana.
ah, okay.
So, someone else has feedback or question? Otherwise, I would suggest to conclude with the usual feedback presentation round of everyone, and then we can obviously drink a beer more and have a little bit of chatting one with each other.
I have one last question.
Okay.
Sorry.
Because I know a bit the Matomo side, but I never saw actually in the deep the Google Analytics side. But what I do know is that now there's new kind of revolution coming from Google Analytics 3 to 4, and so I don't know if you took into account also this kind of information, because you said they are comparable. I wanted to know whether it's comparable also with the new upcoming version, or if you didn't check. Or
I didn't check indeed, but I heard that the Google Analytics source should be compliant with the GDPR, but I mean it is betting on the wrong horse, like. You know that probably it won't be compliant, or if it's compliant, then maybe in some years it isn't. So yeah, maybe a patent.
Well, actually, you just have to ask consent. Nobody wants to do it, but if you ask for consent, then
Yeah.
you use.
But I'm not sure if you can ask for the consent, if that's enough. If that's enough at the moment, no? Because actually you cannot transfer data from users to a US server or a US company, no? Even if the user gives you the consent. I think that's not the case. Or how does the user give you the consent?
Yeah, probably but nobody wants to do it. Of course.
I think it's quite difficult, no? What I understood is that new Google Analytics, there is a setup you could create, if I'm correct, that you have a kind of proxy that so the user visits your website sends this information to a proxy. This proxy anonymizes the IP, and then this proxy sends a ping to Google Analytics. So Google Analytics server doesn't see the IP address from which it originates, because if you just do it on your website, it's not enough. You need a proxy between your website and Google Analytics. Then you could create an environment with Google Analytics which should be compliant, let's say it like this. But it's quite difficult to build. So Matomo was the easier choice.
So maybe you can start with the presentation. So you would be the first one to present yourself.
The presentation. Okay, my name is Patrick Honewein. I'm responsible for the unit Tech Transfer Digital here at my tech park. And yes, I'm happy to see so many also new faces for software developers. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Luca Miotto, also working in Meditech Park in the unit digital unit Tech Transfer Digital. I'm responsible for the Free Software Lab, and
My name is Christian von Uslar. I'm based in Switzerland, just across the border, Ilforen, as it's called, in Zanet, and we run a startup platform for tech and specializing in space.
Peter Hofgartner, CEO of Topic, long member of the free software scene.
Hi, my name is Hilaria Russo and I'm a business informatics student in Bolzano.
I'm Emily Simonis. I'm a freelance and I'm working with Neutech Park for 5 years in digital events.
Hello everybody, Manfred Hirnbacher. I have a small agency working in Google Analytics also, once now more in Matomo, but doing SEO and Google Ads.
Hi, my name is Alexander Klotz. I'm the sales manager of eDay. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Andrei Roznak. I'm a mobile application developer, maybe it's from place. At least I got some knowledge about Google Analytics. And I'm working for Frontiers, it's one company from Switzerland.
Hi, I'm Marco Cicala. I'm CEO of R3GIS, which is in the team on building right here.
Hi, my name is Felix. I'm a high school student here in Bolzano from the VFO.
I'm Lorenz Hoffman, and I'm a high school student too.
Hello, I'm Andreas. I'm working as software developer with Converter, and I spend my days building web-based applications.
And web component stores. Hey everybody, I'm Andrea Vianello. I work in area research, and we manage some data portal. And so we were interested in understand and see how you can monitor web application and web portal in general.
I'm Massimo Porella from Altea Software. I work as a project manager.
Daniele Petti, freelancer, working for helping agencies to introduce innovation in their activity. Former Terrestrial managing director, and actually proud of having installed PV version 0.1 in 2007 for and you need the best of your day to install it.
Hello, I'm Paolo Da Ponte. I'm a web developer in Altea Software.
Hi, I'm Valentina Lesci and I'm also a web developer.
Okay, so
who are you? Sorry.
Huh? I'm Stefano Seppi. I'm working in the Technosphere Digital, same as Simon, Patrick, and Luca. And I'm managing projects about open data and IoT, and I'm organizing this event series. So, thank you everyone, and thank you Simon for the presentation, and you to come and attend the meeting. Next time will be the 2nd of February, so first Thursday of February we will see us, and the presenter will be Davide Montesin, and he will present us Termux.
What?
Termux.
What is this?
We will see. You will discover it.
No spoiler.
No spoiler. But you will receive a notification around next week, I think, so with the link to register and all the information. So enjoy the networking part of the event and see you next time. Bye bye.
Thanks.